Recording in progress. That's us. We are starting now. How are you doing today?
Hello. I'm great. I'm great. How are you?
I'm wonderful, thank you. And you are?
I
Introduce.
am Dr. Michelle Trias. I have a holistic healthcare practice in Southwest Florida, helping people heal from inflammation and chronic disease.
Wonderful. And I am Robert King. I am a clinical hypnotherapist and master NLP practitioner, along with a bunch of other certifications that nobody probably really cares about but me. And I help people also manage stress and anxiety, which in turn helps reduce some of that inflammation. That's kind of what brings us here today.
Yep.
Our topic today is really interesting to me, and I look forward to hearing your insight into these things. I feel like this is leaning very heavy on your knowledge base, and I hope that I can offer some interesting insight as to what we're talking about. So, would you like to introduce our topic today?
So, we are talking today all about inflammation and triggers, food triggers that could cause your inflammation to be worse, or things that can be causing your inflammation to begin with. So, it's all about inflammation and food triggers. That's our topic for today. It's a good one.
Wonderful. And I lean heavily on the mental side of inflammation. Do you believe that food triggers are one of the primary sources of inflammation in people's lives?
I don't think it's the primary source. I think that it's a multi-prong system, I guess we'll call it, or there's multiple reasons why. We hear this word a lot in holistic health: root cause. What's the root cause?
Mhm.
And really, I don't like that word because it means there's only one reason that somebody could be having inflammation, when it could be, well, there's inflammatory foods. There's also some genetic factors for more increase or less ability for the body to decrease inflammation on its own. We're exposed to 80,000 toxins a day. All of
Mhm.
these things lead to big problems with inflammation. So, is there one thing? No. But is food a big part of it? Yeah, food can be really huge for people in reducing inflammation, reducing bloating, and all the other uh, issues that go with it. So, it's big, but it's not the only thing.
I have to say I firmly agree. Root cause is a big conversation everywhere.
Yeah.
I lean on beliefs because I look at the world, and beliefs can cause a lot of bad habits in the world. But some of the habits aren't necessarily belief based, it's just learning based. I've
Mhm.
learned to eat this way specifically. So my family ate, and this is, what I'm normally accustomed to for dinner.
Yeah.
And that isn't always what serves us most appropriately.
Right. Right. Yeah. And I think too, it's okay, Rob. I think it's a good place to start with, like, the difference between acute inflammation and chronic inflammation. I don't think we've talked about that yet.
We have not.
Um, so I think we should start there, if that's good with you.
Yes, please do.
So, acute inflammation, what do you think of when you think of acute inflammation?
I
What's
think of something that pops up right now, something
Yep.
that's happening at this moment. So
Yep.
I twisted my ankle, and my ankle is swollen because of
100%.
that experience.
Yep. That is perfect. Acute inflammation. So that's a great place for, a traditional, a doctor to come in, and maybe you need a boot, or maybe you need something to help with healing of that acute issue. It's like the first responder. What's it going to do? You cut yourself, and you bleed, and then you have some mucus that goes there trying to heal the cut, or, like you said, you twist an ankle. But it's good. This inflammation is really good. You need to have the swelling after a sprained ankle or a sore throat from a cold or a cut that heals. This is your body's natural way of being a self-healing organism. So where we get into trouble is where it gets to be chronic, where it's not going away, where you stub your toe, it goes away. You twist your ankle, you boot it, and what happens over time? It heals. Chronic inflammation, it's it's when the alarm system won't shut down. So when you think of chronic inflammation, what do you think
I think of things like arthritis.
of?
I think of things that have been kind of ignored by a person over the course of time. They think it's natural aging processes.
Yes,
Um,
a lot.
yeah, so that's where my mind goes when it goes to chronic inflammation. And I can say that I've had a lot of knee issues over the course of my life. And there was a point where I lived with that chronic pain.
Mm-hmm.
I had some joint dysfunction and it needed to be managed. When that was
Mm-hmm.
managed, now all of a sudden that chronic pain has gone away. So
Yeah.
that's where my mind goes specifically, almost invariably to arthritis. And I know
Yeah.
that that's not necessarily the right place for our bodies to be.
Arthritis is a good one because it's like it's a perfect one. It's one that I always think of too because it's like it's still pain. Like you think like I'm in pain and
Mhm.
I want, it's a very visceral thing, just kind of like when you sprain your ankle, you're in pain. But chronic inflammation can also be heart disease, diabetes, cancer, Alzheimer's, autoimmune disorders, all of that, all of those are under inflammation as like it's an associated with a lot of chronic diseases. And it's the kind of inflammation, it's not like acute inflammation, it's the kind of inflammation that we don't want. It's like a fire always burning from the inside. And sometimes we feel it, arthritis. And sometimes it's kind of quiet, like we don't feel it all. It's just gradually hurting us over a period of time. So today we're talking about triggers, which would be like poor diet, stress is a big trigger. That's big time where you come in.
Right.
Like toxins, I kind of mentioned that toxins, lack of sleep, gut dysbiosis, meaning like the bacteria in the gut is not good in the microbiome, sugar, seed oils, ultra processed foods. These are all things we're gonna talk about. But that kind of gives everybody who's listening an idea of like what is the difference between chronic and acute. It's the alarm that will not shut off. It's just ringing as loud as it can to tell you that something is wrong,
It's
but it's not
It's
like
funny that you use that analogy, the alarm analogy. I use that for pain quite a bit. When I talk to people about pain management, hypnosis is very effective for sensation, and pain is a sensation created by the brain.
mm-hmm,
We don't always think about it like that. We think about, oh, my finger hurts. My pain is in my finger. The reality is the pain is created by your brain to tell you to watch out for what you're doing with that finger.
yeah.
So I use that similar analogy that when the alarm goes off and the fire alarm goes off, the firemen show up and they put the fire out and then turn the alarm off. And when
Mm-hmm.
that happens, now all of a sudden you have the knowledge that if you hurt that space again, the alarm should go back on.
Mm-hmm.
Often when people have that long-term chronic pain, that alarm stays on,
Yeah.
becomes an easy metaphor for the subconscious to realize that we don't need the chronic pain. Discomfort can be real and you can have discomfort, but you don't need chronic pain all of the time.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
you're saying that there are foods that can drive that, and I totally believe that. What do you think? You mentioned sugar, and I know that we have an addiction challenge in our,
It's
well,
my number one.
a
It's my number
dependency
one,
challenge.
Rob. It's my
Yep.
number one that's gonna cause inflammation is gonna be sugar.
Now,
It. Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry,
What was your question?
is it the use of sugar or is it the overuse of sugar?
So let's break it down. So basically, what happens is because we have these kinds of ultra processed sugars, it creates an excess glucose spike. So it spikes your insulin, right?
Mhm.
And then that causes another factor, which then promotes inflammatory, what's called cytokines. So these cytokines, they come out and they affect your gut microbiome, and then they create more inflammation. So it's it's the downward spiral of what happens when you consume sugar. Once you consume it and you start breaking it down and you have this spike in insulin, then you have a spike in inflammatory cytokines, and then you have issues with your gut microbiome, which then creates more inflammation. So it's a vicious circle really because it gets worse and worse. I find it a lot in like the worst, I would say the worst ones would be like sodas, candies, um, even like healthy things. There's a lot of like greenwashing that goes along these days where they
Mhm.
put it on a green label or they put a little leaf on it and we're like, oh, there's a leaf. This must
Right.
be good for me. And then, but I look in the back and it's like you know, 25% cane sugar. I'm like, oh, that's bad. That's not good for you. So it can be
So,
found in, like, you know, candies,
mhm.
and but it can also be found in healthy things.
So, I mean, it's kind of hard to stay away from sugar totally in the world that we live.
Mm-hmm.
How about the sugar substitutes? Uh,
Yes.
do they also cause inflammation? Or if not, I know that they're not. Oh, I mean, I know some of the jury is out on some of them. I know
Yeah.
that some of them, you hear horror stories on brain tumors and all these different types of cancers that are associated with them. Like, I don't feel like I ever want to give up that wonderful sweet flavor.
Yes.
Is it only good in eating an orange or an apple in those natural sugars, or are there
Yeah.
better ways for us to consume some of the sweet things we enjoy without totally giving our long-term?
Giving it up, right? So I come at this from two kind of perspectives. Like, I think that sweet things make life a little sweeter, you know, it's like nice, like a
Right.
little reward almost of like, oh, this is a nice sweet thing. And so I'm not a proponent of like, oh, well, we're just gonna have absolutely no sweetness. I think sweetness is important. But yeah, there are some alternatives. Like, so you could use stevia, although caveat there, some people have digestional issues with stevia. They can't break it down as well, and then it can create issues. But I've seen, for the most part, a lot of people just love using stevia or monk fruit. That's one of my favorites. I love using monk fruit. Or I'll use like local raw honey. Local is important, because you're getting in kind of an inoculation from your local pollen. So then when pollen season comes around, because you've been eating your own natural honey that's around from your natural honeybees, you don't have that reaction because you've already been sort of slowly inoculating yourself with that natural honey. So those are some good ones. And then fruit, of course, is a good one as well. But like everything breaks down. If you're going to break it down, even sugar will break down and can spike your insulin. So it depends on like the type. For example, um, things like not strawberries, watermelons, those can be higher on the glycemic index. Those can spike your glucose higher. Whereas an apple may not as much, or a carrot, obviously it's not going to do as much, but it's also kind of sweet, carrots. So I have a list of like that I can actually send to you, and we can post this somewhere if you want
You
for
love it.
everybody.
Yeah, we'll put it.
It
Yeah,
shows
we'll
like
put it on this
here's
video.
the all the fruits, and like here's the ones that you should eat all the time, and here's the ones that you should eat a little bit less than that, and here's the ones that you should eat a little bit less than that, so that you know, like, well, I can eat this all day long, and I could probably eat this a little bit less. Beets is a great one. But it can really spike your insulin because beets are really, really high in some of those natural, we'll call them natural sugars.
Yeah,
So,
so I'm diabetic, and
mhm,
they're considering me possibly a late onset type 1 diabetic, but they're not
mhm,
really sure. And I've never fit the profile. But when I was first diagnosed, I was very, very strict about checking my sugar after I ate everything. And they say, okay, give it an hour because your body has to process all those things. I would check it almost immediately after I ate everything. And
yeah,
I recognized that grapes are something that I can't eat. I
me
love
too.
them, but they're just my sugar goes crazy after I eat grapes.
Mhm,
Um, so if I switch to stevia, let's just say I want some cookies, and I have somebody bake me cookies because I'm not quite the baker. I have somebody bake me cookies, and they use stevia rather than sugar. Is that going
mhm.
to affect my sugar
Less,
insulin levels? It's going to affect it less, but still
less.
have that effect.
It's still sweet, right? It's still going to have some effect, but it's going to be a lot less because it's lower on that. Like, it's not going to create that insulin spike.
Okay.
What I really love for my patients in my practice is, and this is for everybody, you don't even have to have blood sugar handling issues. I think it's important to wear a CGM, a continuous glucose monitor, for like a month. If you've never worn it, it goes in your arm, and then there's an app on your phone, and every time you eat, immediately after you eat, just like you did, I agree with you. You should test it right away. You can just put the phone over the device on your arm, and it'll tell you, like, this is what your current blood glucose is at right now, and it'll tell you if it's out of range or if it's not out of range. It'll tell you what the food is doing to you. grapes are the same for me too. And they're on my list at the bottom of things that you should eat more infrequently if you're going to have them. And I would not sit down to a bowl of grapes because that's so high in sugar, or so high in natural sugars that are going to convert into an insulin spike, right? So yeah, it's not like all fruit, oh, it's fruit, just go for it.
Right.
Yes, fruit is great for you, but it's not, it's not as inflammatory as like soda, right? Because it's not going to have that insulin, as much of an insulin spike. And then of course we have all the other ingredients that are in soda that are going to create inflammation too. But
Now, what about those diet sodas? People get accustomed to soda and they are drinking Pepsi or Coke, and somebody says, you got to watch your blood sugar, and they say, okay, well, I'm going to switch to Diet Coke. I
yeah,
noticed in my environment that my sugars don't spike there, but I don't necessarily feel like that's good for me.
yes. So I'll put it this way. I would rather you drink regular soda than diet soda, because what's in it is aspartame, which is going to, over time, make you, like, lead you to have, well, it's called, it removes the myelin sheath in the neurons of the brain, which is to say Alzheimer's, dementia, like people who are, or like MS. There's
Mhm.
a strong link with aspartame and MS. They're like seeing like, okay, well, there's a link here to this. So yeah, I would rather you not drink soda, right? But if you were to say it's either soda or diet soda, I would say, well, then do the regular soda, because then at least you won't forget your name in the future. Like you won't forget who you are.
I know that one can of regular soda is more sugar than I'm supposed to have in a meal, though.
It's bad. It's
Yeah,
really not good. So
yeah.
it's like which is worse, hung or shot, I guess. It's like,
Mhm.
to me, it's like you're both not good.
Right.
So both of them are going to cause, one of them is going to cause major metabolic problems, which will put it, you probably know this, you're looking into this. When you have diabetes, the big concern is your kidneys, right? You want to make sure that you are being protective of the kidneys, because long-term diabetes can lead to dialysis and needing a kidney transplant. So important to keep your metabolic health in check so that you don't have to even worry about that. But yeah, the sugar is my number one thing. For sodas is like, I know it's a tough one, but I would say it's the top of my list of things. Like if you could just get rid of one thing that's not good in your diet, let's say you have a bunch of things in your diet that are not good, this is at the top of my list of things that create inflammation. And sugar, or cancer, feeds on sugar. So the more sugar you eat, the more you're feeding cancer. And so then cancer is something that our body should be able to get rid of, right? Should be able to, just like other things, diseases that come in, we should be able to attack cancer cells and get rid of them. If we feed our body too much sugar, we will have a very hard time, because you're just producing more growth. So think of
So,
cancer. I had a professor once that was like, cancer is the devil. I mean, not cancer, sugar is the devil. And it stuck with me because I remembered it to this day. And I laughed about it because I was like, he's like, it's responsible for so many problems. Um, so we still want the sweetness of life, but without the ultra processed white cane sugar that's produced in, or like high fructose corn syrup, those kind of things that are in sodas and pop are really the
ultra
worst.
processed, like pasta, for example, things like that, white breads, all of
White,
those things convert into
they're going to
problems.
be the same
Right.
thing, white bread, white rice, like just no white, nothing white should go
You're
in
sounding
cooking.
kind of racist here. I don't know if we can continue on this. They might kick us off the
Nope,
air.
nope, green, purple, blue, red, orange, yellow, but stay away from white things, white flour. Yeah, that's true.
Okay.
I'll be
All right.
careful. To say
So, um,
things.
when you sit down with somebody and they come in and they're having these challenges, how do you start them on the right path?
So we focus on kind of like where they are now and where they want to be too. Like, okay, so here's where I am in my health journey. I have these 5 problems. And then I talk about, okay, how can we get from here to where you want to be, which is, I don't want to have these health problems. I want to hang out with my family. We talk a lot about like, what does it your life look like if you're not having inflammation, if you're not having heart disease, if you're, what is it, what does that mean? Like, okay, so you feel better, but you feel better to do what? So then kind of talking through like, what is it that you want to do with this time that you have that you're feeling great? Once they have that clear picture of like, this is where I want to go, then I lay out, here's the obstacles to your success. Sugar is an obstacle. High consumption of alcohol is an obstacle. Inflammatory foods are an obstacle. And then they can decide like, okay, am I going to move this obstacle out of the way? Or am I going to keep trying to go through it? It's just going to be an obstacle to your success, I guess, is the biggest thing that we talk about.
I use the same techniques. I end up finding somebody's goal and then working backwards from that goal. Okay, this is what you want to do, and this is our roadmap to get to that space.
Yeah.
Quite often, I have to find the things that are truly important to people, and then use that as leverage in their path to get to where they're going. Well, it's important to see your child walk down the aisle. So if that's, your goal, we have to take these steps to give you the best opportunity to get to those points.
Yeah.
Rather than just throw caution to the wind and hope you're that person that dies at 105 that, drank every day and smoked 2 packs of cigarettes.
I'm trying to live to 100 too, Rob. I'm trying to live to 100 because there's so many people I want to help and there's so much I want to do. I got to stay healthy because I can't help.
The only way I want to live to 100 is if I have a quality of life.
100%. 100%.
Yeah, if the last 6 years I can't get out of bed, I'm not really interested in that. No. So that comes down to me, doing the best to take care of myself at the moment.
Yeah.
So how do you do these things on a budget? That would be the next question that really would affect a lot of people, because eating those all natural healthy foods can really hurt a budget, or can challenge people that are concerned with how much money is going out each month.
Yes, it's kind of what I tell people is what you're about to do is eat an elephant. And we can't eat an elephant in a month. We can't, it's going to take us a little bit at a time. You're going to move the needle a little bit. So this time when you go to the grocery store, you're not going to get this, you're going to get this. And next time, and each time you go to the store, each time you make yourself food, you are going to just change 1%, little bit at a time. A year from now, if you do that, if you make that small incremental change and you commit to just, okay, each time I'm just going to make a better choice. So yeah, the first maybe 3 months, you're only doing a small portion of it. A year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, you're doing all these things that you weren't doing back then. And you've added it into your budget so slowly, so incrementally, that you've made decisions like, I'm going to cook at home instead of going out to eat. So I'm going to take that $100 that I would have spent eating inflammatory foods, and I'm going to make that last me for 4 meals at home, eating non-inflammatory foods. And I'm going to save some time by meal prepping it in advance. So it's just like a little bit at a time. When you go to the grocery store and you say, I'm going to eat organic, everything's going to be clean from this day forward, you're gonna, lose a whole paycheck doing that. So I don't.
And fall off the wagon normally. It'd just be too hard to stay in that.
Hard. Right. It's too hard. It's too hard to do that. It's not about, I'm gonna make this change and I'm better. No, it's like it's a process. I don't have a magic pill. You don't have one either. So there's no medication that I can give you that's gonna be like, okay, now you are healed.
Now, isn't it true that higher in fiber foods, the greens, the broccolis, now, don't you feel fuller longer after you consume those? So that could really reduce costs. I mean, if you start to eat appropriately in that context.
If you're eating more, if you're doing a balance of protein and vegetables, like more of a paleo diet, I see people who, I know there's so many diets like keto and, carnivore, and paleo is one, and plant-based and vegetarian, and I mean, what have I not named? I don't know. There's more. There's more.
It could go on forever.
Raw, people who just eat raw. So I try to make it very simple. I'm like, eat animal protein that's clean, and fruits and vegetables, nuts and seeds, good sources of fat, good oils, which is another inflammatory thing we'll talk about. But it's a pretty simple, like if you combine those foods, you feel, if you have protein, if you eat just carbs, you feel really, really full for a while, and then you are hungry again. If anybody's ever eaten like certain foods and that's just happened to them, it happens to me with Chinese food sometimes, where
Yep,
I'm just
yep.
like, I think I'm so stuffed I could die, and then I'm hungry again.
Right.
Because
45 minutes later, you're ravenous again,
you're like,
like you
what
didn't
is
anything.
this
Yeah.
is happening? So yes, you're absolutely right. High fiber foods, good sources of protein mixed in with the vegetables, that's going to give you a great meal that's going to also maintain your blood sugar over time. So you're not going to have that like bottoming out where you're like, I need to eat right now. So I think that's 100%.
And that
Um,
true, it's also true with digestion. It helps your system clean out more effectively.
Well, yeah, we need to get it in and we need to get it out in a day. If you are not pooping every day, you're constipated. I don't care what your doctor says. Oh, it's okay. It's not
Right.
okay.
3 days is fine. Yeah.
It's not okay. It's every day. Every day going to the bathroom is good for you to be. It's a good indicator of health. If you're not, then something's going on there. But you're right, with the fiber and the protein and the vegetables, in all of the cellulose that is, when you break down vegetables, they have a lot of cellulose in them. That helps push things out. There's so much fiber in when you have, people don't think of it, but like carrots and celery, and that's got a lot of fibrousness to it as well when you're chewing it. Kale is another one. So yeah, you can get a lot of fiber from your food, and mixing the good fibers with the animal proteins with the good fats, nuts and seeds, that's really going to help to satiate you too.
So you just spurred another question inside of me. We have a challenge sometimes getting children to eat things that aren't chicken nuggets and highly processed foods. I grew up with a garden, and I've always attributed that to be a big reason for my enjoyment of vegetables and
Yeah.
fruits. Um, do you have any tips for parents, maybe that didn't start their children off on those things? And I'm a firm believer that if we can start eating those things at a young age, and that's the only option, now all of a sudden a carrot for a snack is a good thing. But if they don't start off in that scenario, is there any way to start to anything that you've noticed over the course of time? I know you're a parent, to kind of guide children into a healthier, again, one step at a time, but a healthier diet or space in which they can, enjoy a carrot or celery for a snack.
For a snack. Yeah. So I have two kids, and um, I've got one kid that just loves vegetables. And I was like making spirulina pancakes and kale chips. And like I introduced these children, both of them, to holistic foods that were clean. They, when they went to school, they had like a bento box, and it was like, here's the hummus, here's the carrots, here's all the veggies. And they used to tell me that their teachers would comment on their little lunch boxes that I would make for them, of like all their little snacks and things. But one of them really loves all the vegetables, and the other one has grown and likes them less. And so she's less, even though this is what she's exposed to. So even to say that somebody who started off like with all of the things, you can still get exposed to other things and be like, oh, well, I would rather have this or I would rather have that. So I think that depends on the age, right? So mine are teenagers. So this is a lead by example situation at this point. Like, you do the right thing. It's not what I say, it's what I do. And then I also don't, I use my money to buy things that are like the healthier version of whatever it is that they're
You
trying
don't
to
buy
do.
soda. And there's not soda in the refrigerator. So,
Right.
right,
I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it. Now, if they went to their friend's house and they had it, I'm not going to control the entire world of all the things that are, I'm not coming down with a hammer. I was like, this is bad. But
right.
conversations that we have about what happens to you when you do this or do that, or when you're having this food or that food, it's just like, do the right thing for yourself, and let your light shine of how good you're feeling, and then let your kids watch that happen, especially when they're like in that 10 to 17, 18 range, where it's like they're really making choices now on their own. When they're
Right.
younger, if you get them like really young, you have that like beautiful little window. If you can get them in their young age, we always talked about going on like a taste adventure. Like, we're going to try this and we're going to try it. And mom's going to try and cook it in a couple different ways. And let's see how you like Brussels sprouts, like this, or like this. And sort of like giving them different options. Oh, I didn't like it like this. I didn't like it like that, but I did like it the way you charred it, and then you put a little honey on it, and pepper or something like that. So I kind of involve them too on that part of it, which makes it more fun for them. And yes, I'm like, let's go on a taste adventure and see if you like this. But I'm never gonna like, this is what's for dinner. These are the Brussels sprouts. These must be consumed. I don't want to make it a negative experience either. I'm trying to think like, well, I don't want you to just sit here and eat eat all your
I'm a little
vegetables.
older, and when I was, when I was growing up, what was made for dinner was made for dinner. If you didn't like it, you didn't
Mm-hmm.
eat.
Mm-hmm.
I do like the three choice combination. If you're having challenges making a choice in anything, offer somebody three options and they will be able to make that choice. Hey, where would you like to go to dinner tonight? We've all had this conversation. I don't know. What do you want? I don't know. What do you want? If you can offer somebody three choices, they'll be able to figure it out. Would you like Italian, Chinese, or a burger? Okay, now there's an easy way to find an answer like that. So offering three choices in a specific Brussels sprout example kind of locks them in, presupposes that they're going to like one of those choices. You're going to eat one of them, so which one do you prefer?
Which one? Which way did you like it? Right.
Right,
So
which way did you like it? Now you've presupposed
yeah.
that they're going to like one of them.
Yeah,
So,
and then like let's say somebody's at a restaurant and their kids really like mac and cheese, chicken tenders, and like these are like common things. Well, the chicken tenders are going to be fried in seed oils, right? And so that's inflammatory. The chicken is probably not good quality. It's probably got full of
and
antibiotics,
right,
and
the
so there's a
breading's
lot.
crap, and yeah, right.
Yeah, so can I make you something at home that's similar, that's going to be made with better chicken, better breading, better oil, and
Or
and
baked,
or baked it instead of
right.
frying it, right? And so trying those things, eating at home is always going to give you the best opportunity to make the best possible choice. But like making the swap and saying, okay, you like chicken tenders, I'm going to make it this way. And I've done mac and cheese where I've like swapped out the recipe, and of course the first time it wasn't like a slam dunk here. It was trial and error until I'm like, okay, here's the one, this is the recipe. I finally tweaked it and figured it out. I use the internet a lot for this because there's a lot of like great recipes out there from moms who have already gone through it and like, this is the recipe if you want to make a healthier version of mac and cheese, where I've like literally hidden in like turmeric, carrots. They don't even taste it. They're just like,
Right. And I know that they substitute cauliflower for things like mac and cheese and mashed potatoes.
mm-hmm.
Pinterest, I've noticed, is really good for that.
Oh yeah, Pinterest. I do like a little, try to like go through and plan my meals for the week, and I try to pick like one new thing to like introduce to try it out. And sometimes it's a fail, and
Mhm.
sometimes it's like add this to the rotation. So, I mean, be a good example, and then have a little and try to swap the things they like, and then have a little grace for yourself about how the process can be difficult because they are exposed to so much at school and at their friends' houses that you can't control all the things after a certain point. So a little grace for yourself goes a long way.
All right, let's talk about oil. You've mentioned it a couple of times. I've heard, seed oil is bad, and a lot of exposure. We were involved in a lot of exposure to seed oil, and I remember last week you talked about olive oil and things like that being much better for you, and then we talked about the beef tallow
Mm-hmm. Love
being
beef
a little
tallow.
bit
That's a
a little bit better. Now I know
yeah.
there's cooking, and I do enjoy cooking, but I know that there's heating points to each one that
Yes.
can change the oil composition and change how we process it and
Right.
make it not as valuable to cook with. So
Right.
what kind of things, as a regular person at home, are more user friendly that can really up the game for a single individual and their family?
Yes. So, your common culprits for seed oils or oils that are not going to be good, ones that you do not want to have in your house, are canola oil, soybean oil, corn oil, sunflower oil, and cottonseed oil. These are like the
Okay, so
ones.
all the oil I have in my house, I have to throw away.
All the oil you have in your house. If you have any of those oils, those are high in omega-6 fatty acids, which is not the omega that you want. It's unbalanced with omega-3s. And so that will fuel more inflammation. So that's why these seed oils are causing inflammation, because you're getting these high omega-6. You want more omega-3s. Fat is not the enemy. Fat is good. It's good fat versus bad fat. So these type of oils like canola and soybean, they're refined using chemical solvents at high heat, which damages the oil itself too. So it's just all around, these ones should be avoided. The healthy alternative would be olive oil, avocado oil. Avocado oil is stable at high heat. Coconut oil, also stable at high heat. So those ones are better to cook with than olive oil. It's the best. It's very anti-inflammatory if you have it cold. So if you have it on a salad, even like it's popular now. I don't know if you've seen it on Instagram. People just drink olive oil now. I think it's funny. I'm like, well, I've never thought of it that way because I use it so much in like salad dressings that I don't heat it as much. I'll use avocado or coconut oil or beef tallow when I want something that I can heat, something that's hard. You ever notice that coconut oil gets hard? That's because it's stable even at high temperatures.
Now,
So
I've
those
cooked
are
with
better.
coconut oil previously and had a really strong coconut smell. And it affected me. I didn't like it. And I actually had a coconut taste. Is there coconut oil that doesn't have that? And if so, do you know? And I don't mean to put you on the spot because you might not. I mean, you're not a oil expert, I'm certain. But do you know if that changes how healthy that oil is for us?
So coconut oil can be heated. So it can go to high temperatures and it will not change its chemical structure. So it's still good for you. Beef tallow might be one that you consider cooking with instead because it doesn't have that coconutty flavor. My husband is like you, he does not like me to cook with coconut oil, even though this is so good for you.
I don't mind
So
it in certain circumstance, but when I've used it previously, like everything smells like coconut, and what I'm
I hear
eating
you.
has a little coconut flavor, and not
That's
everything goes with
exactly what he
coconut.
says. He was like, I don't want this coconut flavor. So I use it a little bit differently when I'm cooking. And I don't use it as much as I use like avocado oil or beef tallow when I'm like cooking, when I want something, when I want a little bit of oil on something. Like yesterday I made asparagus, right? I roasted some asparagus and then I put like a little bit of beef tallow over it because it's such a good fat, so good for your brain. And you're going to get good omega-3s, which is what you want, which is anti-inflammatory versus,
Omega
you know,
sixes,
the
right?
omega-6s, which are inflammatory. So it's the difference between putting something in that's going to actually help you or something that's going to hurt you. It's not even neutral. Like there's no one that's like, okay, well, this is neutral. One will
Right.
help and one will hurt you. So the seed oils are, it's a hot topic right now, but with seed oils, but I would focus on like other whole food sources of healthy fats too, like nuts, seeds, fatty fish. Those are all good sources of the good type of omega that you want. So those are the
Beautiful.
ones that are going to be, those are the ones that are going to be great for anti-inflammatory diet.
Awesome. Um, I feel like you've answered a lot of my questions. Is there anything else that you think the average person the information the average person should carry away from some of these things?
So I think the only one we didn't talk about, which I think is really important, is ultra processed foods. So sugar was my big one, and then we had seed oils, and we talked about
Mhm.
that. Ultra processed foods. So what would qualify as ultra processed? That would be chemical additives, flavor enhancers, emulsifiers. And you see that on the labeling because they have like 42 ingredients for one thing. And it's like, what are all these
Right.
chemical additives?
It's supposed to be mashed
So
potatoes. Why are there 75 things here? Yeah.
have you seen the back of like an instant mashed potatoes? It's
I
bananas.
haven't, but I can only imagine.
It's bananas. I looked at it recently. I was like, why is this in here? I don't understand. So they're inflammatory because they have poor nutrient density. They will spike your blood sugar too. They disrupt your gut barrier. I mean, they have so many problems. Like anything that's in the frozen meal section is also really hard to break down from a digestive perspective too. So that's why it creates
So
Yes,
prepackaged, let's just say prepackaged French fries.
prepackaged.
Yeah, we'll go to my world. I want to have some French fries. It would be better for me to cut my own and bake them rather than get the bag of fries that comes
So
at the store.
fries are not as bad as like frozen vegetables, frozen fruit, all of that good. I'm okay with frozen things.
Okay.
It's like
Affordable too.
it's and you know what the thing about frozen vegetables and frozen fruit is that it's been cut at the peak of ripeness. Whereas like if I was to get regular strawberries, let's say from Publix down the road, you notice that some of them are white on the end because they're ripening on the way on the truck
Right.
instead of ripening on the vine. And then so you're getting like half the nutrients that you could get from a frozen strawberries, let's say, that was cut at the peak of ripeness. So I'm talking about like your Stouffer's frozen lasagna
Mhm.
or your bag of, let's say, like I've seen this where it's like pre-mixed, where it's like got pasta and seasoning and vegetables and it's all
And
mixed
some
together.
chicken and yeah,
Okay, those ones full of chemical additives, full of preservatives, those are the ones. So if you're having like straight frozen spinach, all good. But if it's like spinach in some sort of mix of something, beware because there could be chemical additives. And so um, anything like anything like that, I would beware of on the ultra processed food side of things. It's usually a lot of frozen foods, but also chips. Potato chips are really highly processed. Fast foods. I have like a if it's fast, if it's frozen, if it comes from a bag or a box or a pickup window, probably it's inflammatory for you because of either the food itself or how it was cooked, right? So it's got one or the either it's got the sugar, it's got the oil, or it was ultra processed and it's got additives. So it's got one of the big three if it comes from like fast food, typically not all
mhm.
fast foods, but
Right, right.
um, so that's what I would be aware of too if you're listening to this is the ultra processed food because they are like a hidden, I would say a hidden threat. So if you prioritize maybe like cooking at home, batch cooking, or using the frozen vegetables, I use them all the time as like a okay, I'm gonna roast some chicken and then I'm gonna have these sautéed vegetables and I'm gonna cook them in good fat. And now they're gonna be I'm gonna get fat, a vegetable, and a protein. This is like a fully perfect meal, I think, in terms of like how it should look on the food pyramid. How it
And,
should
you know,
be.
I feel like the food pyramid has done multiple generations of disservice.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
it and now some of those things are starting to be discussed, and it would be nice when they start to update those things, hopefully to give us better insight. So
Yeah.
we've talked about all these things that can create inflammation in us and the foods that we eat. Is
Mm-hmm.
there any food that you would suggest that would help us detoxify all of the
Mm-hmm.
garbage we've put in? Something that we can
Oh,
start
I
slow.
love it.
And I know this is probably your wheelhouse and what
Oh,
you
I
really
love it.
enjoy. Yeah.
I
Um,
love detox. So
so, you know, the
there's a
beginning
lot of good foods
stages.
for that.
Okay. Give us just a couple, and then I'm certain we'll talk about the detoxification more and
Oh,
probably have a whole
that'll be a
episode
whole
about that.
other topic. So garlic, amazing for detoxification. Olive oil, amazing for detoxification. Ginger, um, parsley, and cilantro. These ingredients are great for detoxification. So if you put that in a salad, let's say you make a salad dressing and you have those ingredients in there: garlic, olive oil, parsley or cilantro, maybe some ginger in there. That sounds like a great salad dressing, but also super anti-inflammatory for you. So, and also it's super detoxing for you. So you may even find that you go to the bathroom more. So that's a really easy one. Turmeric is a great one to add because it's good in flavor and it also helps reduce inflammation. So those are my top ones for reducing any kind of inflammation there and
And
or detoxing a little bit, not it's not going to be a
right,
huge
starting
detox,
the
but
process.
pepitas, which are pumpkin seeds, those are great anti-parasitic. Now, do I think that you can just eat pepitas and get rid of parasites? No. But what if you ate pepita? What if you got rid of parasites periodically and detoxed yourself, and also you ate pepitas frequently throughout your week and month and years? Are you going to be better off? Yes, it's something that you're taking practical measures towards kind of a little bit at a time. So
Now,
yeah,
those are something that could also be overprocessed, correct?
yes, they can. So it's important to read the labels really on what you're looking at and making sure that you're getting something that's clean. And that's, we can have a whole episode on
Yeah, I
how to
was just thinking
find
that sounds like
how to find clean things, because it's really, I mean, the WGO has like the Dirty Dozen, which is a list of, if you're going to eat or non-organic, don't eat these 12 because they're full of pesticides, herbicides, insecticides. And so like avoid those, as make sure that if you're going to eat, then you eat these organic. So that helps people too. Cause okay, well, it's only a dozen of the dirtiest ones. Like think porous, whatever's really porous. So that's like strawberries, top of the list.
Mhm.
Get those organic, or have something else if you're not going to have that. If you have an orange, has a peel around it, so it's going to be less porous. So you're going to have less insecticide, herbicide, glyphosate, all of that garbage that you don't want, that's also causing inflammation. A whole other episode on toxins. We've
Which
got
is
episodes.
interesting to me. I don't know a lot about detoxification of our systems, and I'm curious about that. And I'm certain that if I'm curious about it, there's somebody else out there that also has some
Yeah.
curiosities.
It's detox is my jam. You know this, Rob. I love
I
it.
do, I do. I know you talk about it quite a bit, and I have heard a lot of conversation lately about detoxifications, and there was something else you just stated that I'd heard regularly start to be brought up again, or not even again, just in general. It's escaped me now, but I'm sure I'll listen back to this and I'll
Detox
write
is
it down and
good.
be like,
That's
that's we got to
agenda.
talk about that next too. Uh, so when I'm starting to detoxify myself, I should obviously drink a lot of water and
Mhm.
do those things. Um, is there a point in which I could do that a little too much?
Yes. Detoxification, and we'll have to cover this on a whole other one. There is a distinct process that has to happen when you're really truly detoxing. The tips that I gave are more for like, this is like a maintenance of like, here's some
Right.
things you can
Mhm.
do that are detoxing for the body generally. But if you're doing a deeper detox, then you need to support the drainage pathways of how the lymphatic system has to get supported. You need binders. You need to think about like cellular energy, minerals, all that's important when you're like killing parasites or
Parasites. That's
removing heavy metals or removing mold or any environmental toxins. All of that is, it takes it's not like, oh, I'm just going to detox and I'm not going to feel it. If you don't do things in the right way, in the right combination, you could feel really crappy. And I hate that for people when they are like, oh, I detoxed and I felt horrible. And I'm like, well, it doesn't have to be like that. There's a reason you felt horrible. Scientifically, we understand why you would feel bad if we're pulling toxins out of the body and then they're not getting eliminated out of the body quickly. And so you feel like garbage because you have all these toxins that you've just pulled out of cells that are now floating around in your body. So you feel terrible. So there is a specific way to go about it. Eating parsley or eating cilantro or garlic, that's not going to do that, because that's a very sort of like detox light, I would call it. Like you're really
surface level.
very gentle about it. Sprouted like alfalfa or sprouted broccoli is really detoxing, actually very good for you. So
And
that's another one.
I can add, very easy to do on your own. They have little sprout kits that you can purchase for very inexpensively. They grow very quickly, and you can
Yeah.
basically have them constantly if you want them. To add to different, smoothie type experiences that I know that are
Or
really
like throw them on a salad. I know that people think like, okay, well, eating the way that you eat is really complex. And I'm like, man, I throw my lunch together in probably 4 minutes. I throw my breakfast together in another 4 minutes because that's going to be a smoothie or yogurt parfait or something like that. And then dinner, maybe it's more complex, but that's for everybody. Everybody spends a little bit more time making a nicer dinner. Maybe that's 30 minutes. So I think that it's possible, if you buy the right ingredients, to have a very simple but delicious lunch and breakfast for yourself that's like 10 minutes of your day, and you've made yourself a high protein, high impact, anti-inflammatory lunch.
a lot of this sounds very Mediterranean type.
Mediterranean for sure.
Mhm.
Mediterranean for sure. More on the paleo side, like more like, okay, we're having animal protein, clean. We're also having fruits and vegetables. We're also having olive oil. We're having fish, beef, chicken, all of that, vegetables, olives, olive oil. Yeah, all of those things are really Mediterranean diet. It
Well,
is.
we have a ton to talk about, so let's leave some of this for the next time.
We
Um,
will. We will.
so you said that you can add on a little downloadable thing that I can put a link into underneath the
Yes.
YouTube. It can be within the description in the YouTube video. We'll make sure to get that in there for people. How can people find you to start some of this process if it's something they're interested in?
Yeah, so you can find me at mynaturalwellness.com, or you can email me at Dr. Michelle at mynaturalwellness.com. It's NATURO because I'm a naturopath, so not natural, but natural. And my practice really focuses on detoxification and cellular health, cellular transformation. How do we get to that state of like great metabolic health? So that's how they can find me. How can they find you, Rob?
Oh, I am hidden actually at the moment. I am working through a company called Surviving SIRS, which is how you and I really started this venture
Yes,
to helping people detoxify from biotoxins that are
right.
in their environment. I help people in that scenario keep their anxiety and stress level low to offer people like you a better chance to strengthen their immune system and detoxify their system. So in managing our thoughts, we're able to manage some of these processes, the chemical processes that our body causes through thought and experience to offer a better opportunity for healing. I believe, as you do, that we are built to heal ourselves, and the goal is to give people the best opportunity to heal themselves.
Yeah.
So, in ventures like you and I together, I think have great opportunity for seeing people find the space that they'd like to be.
Yeah. And we didn't talk about it too much, but part of the inflammatory triggers is also like encouraging like mindful eating and building better habits and not trying to be perfection. And that's your wheelhouse right there is how do we get away from dopamine driven cycles with sugar and processed foods and encourage that mindful eating. So
Right.
I think that's
And some of that has to do with growing up eating those things and the habitual experience of it. And others have to do in, as I spoke before, about our belief systems and the things that we carry as being valuable to us. So every individual is a little bit different. There are definitely things that we can speak about in another episode to help people along those tracks, give them a better chance to take some control over those driven actions.
yeah.
Understand, as you do, that we live busy lifestyles, and there are some
Mhm.
times where you're not able to do the things that you know you should do.
Yeah.
You just have to find something to eat because you're starving. You don't have time to do anything else.
Right.
Unfortunately, that is the environment we live in once in a while. And as you just said, it's very important not to beat ourselves up over that.
Mhm.
I try to live a lifestyle in which 80% of the time I'm as strict as I can be
Mhm.
and give myself some space to enjoy some ice cream once in a while. I
Mhm.
know I'm not supposed to eat a bunch of it. And if I take that away totally, then I don't want to overindulge. If
Mhm.
I'm going to have some, I'm saying, okay, well, let me be responsible about this. Let me have a small amount, cut that craving,
Mhm.
enjoy my space, and then move on with life. I don't want to beat myself up over it. I don't want to feel guilty about it later. I still want to live,
Mhm.
but I want to have a nice long quality of life. And if I
Yeah.
can balance my strictness with the ability to give myself a treat once in a while or something that I enjoy, even if it's not a treat. Hey,
Yeah.
part of my challenge is people using food like a treat. That's not really the best direction to go. Your food shouldn't be a treat. A happy lifestyle is a treat. Time spent
Right.
with your family is a treat. The food that we eat is nourishment. And it's okay to like things that aren't always good for you, but to live on those things as brings us to our conversation. It starts to destroy
Mhm.
ourselves from the inside out.
And what do you think, like, because people are looking for a dopamine hit sometimes of like with some of these foods. So when you're coaching people who are like, I'm sad and I eat this and I feel happy, like I want to feel happy. My life is hard over here and I
Mhm.
just really want this dopamine hit. What do you do when you're coaching people in that scenario?
Part of that is to start to rewire the neurological systems and start to realize that those dopamine hits are short-lived and really don't satisfy us. So we have to look for the things that we need satisfaction in, those feelings, those spaces in life that are not quite as fulfilling as we'd like them to be, and start to look at the other things around us that can fulfill us in those needs. So the dopamine hits that we get all too often are because we weren't able to manage the stress to begin with. And I'm stressed out now, and now all of a sudden I need something that I know is going to give me a better feeling right this second. So if we can start to manage those stressful thoughts and feelings at the onset, we're going to have less need for that dopamine kick in the end, because we're realizing that that doesn't serve us. This is my goal. I want something that serves me and gives me my goal, but doesn't necessarily put me in the wrong direction. And, you know, it is realistic that we do desire those dopamine hits. And now we live off of those. And we've started to wire our neurological systems in that way. At the beginning of that shift can be a challenge for people. Once they start to shine light on that, like everything else, when you are looking at that, you can say, wait a minute, okay, this is me needing a dopamine hit. My goal is to detoxify my body right now. That's not allowing me to reach my goal. And just the opportunity to see that starts to give us an opportunity to shift our lives in the direction we'd like it to go.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. You're shining the light on what the real problem is instead of like a band-aid, which is what, you know, I deal with all the time, where people are like, I want a quick fix, or
Right, that ice cream
one
is a
little,
Band-Aid. Right.
it is a
Yeah,
band-aid,
it
but
is a
looking,
Band-Aid.
that's that's the hard work.
Yeah.
That's the hard work, is like, okay, what is the real thing that I'm trying to, why am I needing to get this dopamine
Right.
hit,
What
or
is it that I'm looking for?
it's about the intention too. Like I tell people too, like if you're going to go completely off of the diet that you are eating on, and get something, I'm like, I hope that you just enjoy the hell out of it.
Right.
Whatever
Love
it
it.
is,
Right.
love it, love it, love it. Because if you go at it eating like the ice cream or the French fries, and you're like, this is really bad for me, and I really shouldn't be eating this, but damn it, I need to feel good. And I know this. If you do that, your body perceives the threat, like there's a threat coming, and it's coming, and she's already told me that it's coming, and here it comes, and it makes it worse. Whereas if you just like, let's just enjoy it,
Right.
and just
And,
like give it
right.
good
Guilt.
attention.
Yeah. Guilt doesn't help us with anything. I look at guilt like people breaking their own rules. So they feel guilty when they have a rule and they're not able to live by it. And that's kind of silly to me, because we create our rules. So why would you create a rule that you can't live by?
Yeah.
You know, within that, there are certain times and certain habits that we have to learn how to manage,
Yeah.
but don't live with guilt. And consider that that decision that you're making is greatly affecting your life. So do you choose life over ice cream? And I know that sounds very hyperbolic, but in the long-term scheme of the world, that is the choice that you're making. While that bullet that the gun that you pointed at yourself and pulled the trigger, that bullet moves a lot slower than what we would think a normal bullet moves. It's still a bullet coming at you.
Yeah.
So fortunately, if you start early enough, you have time to get out of that way. That is a gift that we can give ourselves if we start to recognize it as that. It is a slow form of suicide, unfortunately. And I talk about that a lot in a lot of different situations. Smoking, it's a great example. Well, this cigarette isn't going to kill me right this second. But there's nobody in the world that thinks that cigarette is good for them.
Yeah.
And they know that there's long-term damage that could be associated with that experience. So are you committing suicide immediately? No. But we're starting to reduce the quality and the long-term opportunities within our life. So all these decisions you could put in that same basket, but it becomes a very large conversation like that. Like, oh my gosh, this is killing me. Well, you know, it is really, but not right this second. So we have time to get out of the way of this bullet. Let's start to take those steps to move.
That's
because you
a
know it's coming at
pretty
you.
strong statement about basically like it's suicide. And I've never heard it put that way, but it's really great. I'm glad you said that because it's fantastic. It's so strong. Name the episode that.
Yeah, it's suicide. I'll name the.
Inflammation. It's just suicide.
It's just suicide. I can do that. We'll put that on
Oh
there.
my gosh, I love that. I'm going to use that now when I talk to my patients because that was an awesome,
Let me
awesome
write
thing
this
you
down.
just said.
It's suicide. All right, it's in there.
It's perfect, Rob. I love it.
I
Uh,
wish it weren't the truth, really, but in the long term, I've known so many people that have killed themselves with cancer. As you said,
mhm,
cancer is something that we can starve out. You hear things all the time of people fasting and killing cancer.
mhm.
I don't know the realities of that. I don't know the studies that have shown that, but I have heard it regularly.
Yeah.
Another thing that we talked about that I'd like to do an episode on is the parasites. That is also a big topic now. People are starting to talk about cleaning themselves out of parasites. And something I don't know anything about. Really, it's almost a new topic for me. So
Oh,
curious
let's
just to learn some of that.
I cannot wait to dive into parasites. It's like my favorite thing. It's like one of my favorite things after
You got
detox.
some strange favorites there,
I
Dr.
know,
Michelle.
I'm a weirdo. It's like I want to talk about detoxing and the liver and parasites. A weirdo.
Well, they're all topics with my diabetes that I'm interested in. If
Awesome.
I was not diagnosed with diabetes, honestly, I would have very little knowledge or interest in a lot of these things. I'd just be going through life destroying myself one bite at a time.
Yeah, little tiny silently. It's like a little
Right.
quiet suicide that's happening with a lot of
Yeah.
people that they don't
Yeah.
know that it's happening. So I love it though. I love the name of that.
Inflammation. It's suicide.
It's suicide.
Well,
Catchy.
is there anything else you'd like to touch on today?
I think we covered a lot with the big three food triggers. So I think that's it.
I agree. I think that we're producing wonderful information for people. And
Yeah.
as we continue to do this, we will see a lot of people hopefully recognizing that life changes are possible and it's not nearly as challenging as we make it out to be. A
Yeah. Yeah. Got it. A little bit at a time, right? A little
little bit at a
1% at a
time.
time, right? That's how we
Yep.
make those changes. So,
Yeah. There's a
all
Jeff.
right. Well, I think that's a wrap for
I think
today.
that's a wrap. Number 2 in the books.
For two. Yeah.
Awesome. We look forward to the next one. Thank you so much for your
Yes.
time. And
Yes.
thank you for listening if anybody does.
Thank you, everyone, for listening.
All
We'll see
right.
you next time.
Bye.